Hello everyone, welcome back to the library. I'm Laura. Today I'm going to be doing my November wrap-up. This month I read 11 books. So I'm just going to talk about these books in order that I read them, so I'll start from the beginning of the month to today. So let's get started. The first book that I read this month was The Japanese Lover by Isabel Allende, and I gave this book 4.5 stars. Now this book is about a young girl who is sent from Poland by her parents to live in America with her aunt and uncle because they are afraid of what's going to happen with World War II closing in. So they send her there to live with her other family that she's never met before. She ends up meeting her cousins and becoming good friends with her male cousin. And she also becomes very good friends with the son of the Japanese gardener. But because of World War II and the fear of what happened at Pearl Harbor, of course, the Japanese in America are sent to internment camps, and so she loses her friend. Now as they get older, they meet again and become friends, and then more. I really enjoyed this book. It was really good. It's a growing up story, and I love those. You'll hear later about another one I really enjoyed this month. Isabel Allende's writing is amazing. I'm really excited to read House of the Spirits because I've heard, I think that's her most popular one, and I've heard it's really great. The second book I read this month, this is going to be a fun one to talk about. I read Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. Now, this book has been very popular on BookTube the last few years. Pretty much everyone I have heard talk about it has loved it. I gave it 2.5 stars. If you don't know, this is a story about a family living in the US in the 1970s, if I remember correctly, and their oldest daughter dies. So it's basically about her dying and what led up to it and what happens afterwards, and I won't say that the writing was bad because the writing was actually really good. I enjoyed the writing, that was the best part of it, but the story was just not for me. I just felt everyone was really shallow, and I understand that sometimes deaths can do horrible things to a family and break them apart, but it just seemed like everyone acted like complete crap bags to each other, like even before and after, and it just didn't seem like how a family should act. I didn't feel like there was really any character development. It was like, we were this way, now we're this way, but what led to that? Like I said, I originally gave it 3 stars because I didn't really want to go with 2 because it wasn't written badly, and I can understand why people enjoy it, but it just wasn't for me, and so really I'm dropping it down to 2.5 stars. If you think you'll enjoy this type of story, I think go ahead and read it. I'm still going to read her second book called Little Fires Everywhere because I've heard really good things about it. Now, if it's not for me, I probably won't read any more of her stuff that she comes out with. Now third, I finally read Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. Now, I never had to read this in school. I don't know why, but we just never did. I had started it twice, but I just had some family stuff going on, and it was the end of my last year of school, so I just didn't end up finishing it. Now, if you don't know about this book, I'm not going to say much about it, even though it is so old, but basically it's about a world where books are outlawed and there are firemen that go to houses and burn all the books. So basically it's just about this dystopian world and the main character, Guy Montag, and how he feels about everything that's going on in his life. So I gave this book 4 stars, but I think I would drop it to 3.75. It wasn't quite a 4-star for me because 4-star books can be some favorite books for me, and I don't really think this is a favorite. I enjoyed it. It was pretty good. I understand why it's an important book. It's very important. It's kind of terrifying that that could actually happen. Like I said, I enjoyed it. It's a really good book. You should definitely read it, especially if you live in the US and kind of want to be terrified of what could happen in the future. But I do think Ray Bradbury tends to drone on certain things in his books, and that's why I dropped it down a little bit. The next book I read was Stay With Me by Ayobami Adebayo, and I gave this book 4 stars. Now, this is a book about a woman and her husband, and I believe they are from Nigeria. They cannot have a child, and they had always planned to be monogamous, but because she cannot have a child, the family ends up bringing over a second wife for him, and their entire relationship changes because of this. And I really don't want to say much about this story because there's a lot that goes into it, but it really is heartbreaking, and especially if you've gone through the pain of not being able to have a child. Now, I haven't had that happen, but I have many people in my life who have had miscarriages, who have just struggled to conceive it all, and it's scary and it's painful. I'm getting emotional, and like I said, it hasn't even happened to me, but it's just a very sad thing. And the book was awesome. The writing was amazing. I really hope that she writes more because the book was great. Like I said, 4 stars. Next, I read Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie, and I also gave this 4 stars. If you don't know what this is about, it is part of Agatha Christie's Hercule Poirot series, detective series. And on this one, there's a murder on a train that Mr. Poirot was on, and he has to figure out what happens. Read it pretty quickly. I read And Then There Were None a few months ago and gave it 4 stars too. I don't think I like this one quite as much as In There Were None. So that's my thoughts about Murder on the Orient Express. It's good. You should read it. I don't think you need to read his books in order, even though this is like the 4th or 5th one in that series. Next, I read Little Deaths by Emma Flint, and this was the pick for the Goodreads book club by April from her channel Getting Hooga With It. Now, this book is about a woman in the 60s, and she is a single mother with 2 young children, and one night they go missing, and then they are both found dead. And of course, she is the main suspect. So basically, this is about her going through being the suspect, and it's also this journalist finding out about her and her life and her children. I don't know about my feelings about this book. I gave it 3 stars. It should probably be less. It was not a thriller, not even close. I don't know why it's in the genre of thriller, because it's not. And I don't even really think it should be a murder mystery because not much focuses on that. And if it was trying to be literary fiction, it also failed at that. It just really wasn't that great. I think that the author has potential to be a good writer, but that it just somehow got lost along the way. Her characters were all horrible people and creepy. The journalist in this book is nasty and weird. There's a ton of misogyny in this book, and I get the point of it because it is the 60s, and I think the author is trying to make leaps and bounds over that, but I just think it made the book worse. Like I said, I just didn't enjoy this. Next, I read Saga Volume 6 by Fiona Staples and Brian K. Vaughan, and this is a graphic novel series. I can't really talk about this much because it's a series. It's basically about a world and their moon that are fighting, and the people on each one hate each other, but 2 come together and fall in love. I really enjoyed all of them. I've given them all 4 or 5 stars. I gave this one 4 stars. And next, I read another graphic novel. I read Lock and Key, Volume 2 by Joe Hill. Now, this is basically about a family whose father is killed by one of his crazy ex-students, and the family ends up moving to his childhood home where lots of creepy stuff happens, and there's all these keys that unlock a bunch of supernatural stuff, and because it's Joe Hill, who is the son of Stephen King, of course it's creepy. And I'm not a big fan of the art in these, but it's okay. I gave this 4 stars. I really do like it, and I plan to continue because the story is pretty awesome. It's just like a horror novel, but in graphic novel form. The next thing I read, I actually still have. Everything else has gone back to the library, or it was an audiobook. So this is Doubt by Yoshiki Tonogai, and this is a manga. This is about a group of teenagers who play a game called Rabbit Doubt, which is about rabbits, but one of them is actually a wolf and is killing off the rabbits, and they have to figure out which one is the wolf before he kills them all. So basically these teenagers end up meeting to have a night of fun. They get knocked out and wake up with one of them dead in front of them, and basically they have to find out who the wolf in Rabbit's clothing is. And like I said, this is the first volume in, I believe, only 2 volumes. I already have the second one requested and ready at my library to pick up. I'm gonna go get it this weekend. I really enjoyed this. It was really good. Not as creepy as I was hoping. I was hoping it would be a little creepier. But anyways, I did enjoy it, gave it 4 stars, and I'm ready to continue with the next volume. The next book I read, I actually listened to the audiobook starting yesterday and finished today, and that was The Boston Girl by Anita Diamant. And I already had this on my list because I had heard about it from April from Getting Hugga With It, but yesterday I watched Sean from Eclectic Reads November wrap up, and he talked about how much he loved it too, and so I was like, okay, I have to get this right now, listen to the audiobook. It was wonderful. I was laughing, I was nearly in tears at parts. It doesn't have a lot of exposition, it's just a story of a grandmother telling her life story from her growing up in Boston as in a poor Jewish family, to her, and she's telling the story to her granddaughter, and I loved it. It was so beautiful. This was my 5-star. I thought it was amazing. It was my 5-star read for the month. Please pick it up, especially if you love historical fiction, if you love like family stories and just like a person telling the history of their life. It was beautiful, and I hope to actually read more from her because she is a great writer. And the last book that I read this month was This Savage Song by Victoria Schwab. Now, I read her Shades of Magic trilogy, which she writes under the name V.E. Schwab, which is her adult fantasy series, and I gave all 3 of them 5 stars, loved them. I gave this one 4 stars. Like I said, this is her young adult. It's kind of a fantasy dystopia world, and this is about a city that is split in 2 where there are humans, but there are also monsters, and the monsters come from horrible acts which are committed by humans. Now, like I said, the city is split in 2, south and north Verity City, and there's a man on each side running each part of the city. Now, there's a monster named August who comes from one side, and a human girl who is named Kate that comes from the other side, and they end up meeting and becoming friends, sort of. Crazy stuff ensues. I don't want to say too much about it. I did actually really enjoy this. It's a really quick read. I just didn't read it too fast because I have to work, and so my reading time is broken up. But if I didn't have to work, I could probably have read this in a day or 2, because even though it's 400 something pages, the font's pretty big, and it's just a quick read, and I really enjoyed it. I'm excited to get to the second one. I don't know if I said, but this is actually only a duology. The second book came out this year. Like I said, I gave this 4 stars. I didn't enjoy it quite as much as her adult series. It did have a tone more of young adult, which is understandable. I felt like the writing and the tone was a bit more cliche and just very young adult. So Like I said though, I did enjoy it and I hope to get to the second one soon. So that was my November wrap up and I really hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you've read these and if you enjoyed them, or maybe if you didn't and why. You can argue with me about how I feel if you would like in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and subscribe to my channel, and I really hope you all have a good day. I will see you in my next video.